Welcome back, Axis and Allies players, straight from the nest. It's Wars of the World, Series 3, the Napoleonic Wars. NATO's going to lead us through this introduction and through all of our scenarios. Take it away, NATO, and show us how it's done.
Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest, and come back after my tweaks and changes. And recall last video I said I was going to rewind to the 1808 turn where France annexes Spain and Russia switches sides. So there's three things I changed. I changed what happened to the Spanish forces after Spain gets annexed, changed Portugal's starting units when it enters, and I changed Russia. Now, recap, the reason why I did that is because how I had the rules originally, it was making France way too powerful naval-wise, and it was become pretty clear that England was pretty much never going to be able to do anything for the entire game, aside from just build ships and then watch them get sunk, immediately afterwards. So it is pretty much eliminating England as a factor from the game completely, and making France way overpowered on land as well. Historically, when France annexed Spain, the Spanish forces didn't all just suddenly become French. I originally had it that way because I thought France was going to need the help, because it's facing so many enemies. But it's looking like it's not going to be not the case. It looks like France is fine, going to do just fine on its own. So I changed it to its historical outcome. When France annexes Spain, the Spanish units are just removed from the board. So that gives England a chance to recover navally wise and a chance to actually get in this fight. And then I changed it so Portugal couldn't actually build units until it was at war, just like Prussia, Sweden, and Russia. Because if you remember, you saw that Portugal's stack was giant. It had like 15-20 infantry or something, which is a way overpowered, because historically Portugal never had a military that big, and also added to that, Portugal just doesn't have the population to support an army that big. So I changed it so they could only start producing units once they're at war, because that was more historically accurate. Historically, there was no way Portugal all by its lonesome could hold off Napoleon, and with that super stack that I originally had, with Portugal being allowed to build right from the get-go, that super stack Portugal had was more than enough to hold off France, even if France concentrated everything it had at it, and historically that's just not accurate or true. And the third change I made is once Russia switches sides, I changed it so they can't build any more units after that until 1812. Once Russia goes back to war with France, you can start building units again. The reason why I decided to do that is because once Russia switches sides, the only people they can fight is Sweden, and it's a limited conflict. They can only take the territories that would eventually become Finland and western Poland. But after that, Russia doesn't have anyone to fight, and if they don't have anyone to fight and they're not taking losses, they're going to just build. By the time 1812 rolls around again, Russia is going to be massive. So, for balance sake, changed it so Russia can't build anything until they're back at war with France in 1812. So those are the only three changes I made. and didn't change anything in Europe. It's nothing with Prussia or Austria or anything. And so I didn't touch Central Europe. And so I played from first half of 1808 all the way through to the beginning of 1809. And so the only changes from the last video, as you can see, is England has a navy again. France still has a navy, and England, with the pressure taken off, England's allowed England to build some transports. So now England can actually get in the fight, get their forces down to Spain, where their victory objectives are, give them an actual opportunity to win the to win the scenario, not just have France winning every single time overwhelmingly. Between Sweden and Russia, nothing really changed. They took Western Poland, they took all the what would become Finland, so Helsinki, Viipuri, and Tornio. So that all was the same. The only thing that's different is Russia is, in terms of its military, is a lot smaller than what it was last video before I made the changes. And then if you saw our video with Viper showcasing all the new pieces we got, we got our under construction tokens for facilities, so that's a new addition. And then, so other than that, that's all the changes. So we can get into the first half of the 1909 turn. So England, like I said, built a transport, rebuilt its fleet, has been able to actually put some forces in Canada now. Now that it's not spending every single dime on ships. So England can get ready for the war with America coming in 1812. Spain, it just moved the facility up the tracker, and I don't think I explained how I'm doing that with Spain very well so in any of the videos. So what I'm doing with Spain is, the turn that it's annexed by France, all of Spain's money goes to France. And so that first Spanish turn that it gets annexed, it can't do anything because it doesn't have any money, it doesn't have any units. So at the end of the Spanish turn, when it gets annexed, it gets, it can't do a purchase phase, and it can't do any movement or combat phases, because the only thing it has on the board is militia, and they can't move. So the last phase of its turn is to collect income. So it collects the income of all the territories it still has, and so then the next Spanish turn, it only collects the income for that one time. And so the next Spanish turn, it uses that 32 IPP to build the factory. So in the next Spanish turn that it has money for a purchase phase, it spends the $5 to put the factory on the appropriate stage. So it's going for a major, so it put it on stage 4, and put its under construction token there. And like I said, it doesn't collect any more income after that. So the next turn it spends another 5 to move it down. But once the factory is complete and put on the board, then it can collect income again and buy units. Did it this way, so you can't place any units without a factory. But I did it to where Spain isn't collecting an income, because if all it can do is spend $5 a turn on a factory, by the time the factory gets put out, Spain's going to have like 100 IPP built up. So for gameplay balances, that's why I'm doing it that way, that once Spain is annexed, it gets a one-time payment for its territories, and then it doesn't get any more money until the factory is built, for just for game balance purposes. So that's what Spain did. It just spent the 5, moved it up the production chart. Russia took the last territory that it can take from Sweden. It took what the hell is that territory called? Tronio, I think. Anyways, that territory right there. So Russia, for the next, well, until 1812, Russia is out of the fight. It's run out of places it can fight. So till 1812, Russia is just going to be moving troops around. Russia is controlled by the, French faction, but France is the only one in the faction right now. So Russia is controlled by France right now, and if you remember, one of France's objectives is Moscow. So a crafty French player who has control of the Russian forces right now would move these Russian forces as far away from Moscow as they can. For fairness, I'm going to say, they can't move them, all the way to, can't move them all the way to Vladivostok. For fairness, we're going to put in the rules that they can't move all of Russia's units all the way to the Pacific coast, because that would just be cheating. But, something like move them as far north as they can, or something like that, or something like that. So a little bit of fairness, give France a little bit of an edge, but not too much, because moving them all the way there, that would just be ridiculous. Let's see, Prussia, what did Prussia do? Prussia just played defense. Reinforced Munich, just playing defense right now, because France is really putting the heat and pressure on them. Sweden just built forces in Stockholm. They're still in the war. Their main focus is Russia right now. Russia can't advance any further into Swedish territory, but that doesn't mean Sweden can't try to get their territory back. So it'll take a while. They could potentially save up some money and build a transport, and then that'll force Russia to spread their forces out along the entire coast. So we'll see what Sweden does in the future. Big news with France is they have knocked Austria out of the war. So now Prussia is all that's left on mainland Europe, because remember, Russia has switched sides, so Prussia is all that's left on the mainland Europe. So France is now concentrating almost everything it has against Prussia. It still has to divert money and resources down to Spain to fight Portugal. So, and this was another reason why, I thought it was very critical that England be able to have a serious chance at naval superiority, because without British help in terms of landing troops in Europe, it's very unlikely that Prussia and Portugal would be able to survive on their own without British help, and by help I mean more than just leasing money. It's going to require British boots on the ground in Europe. Otherwise, I don't ever see a playthrough where Prussia and Portugal survive on their own. So, so England is definitely going to have to build transports quickly and get that army that's been sitting there this entire scenario in Europe somewhere. The obvious choice would be Spain, because that's where all of England's objectives are, but Russia's probably going to need some help too, so England's probably going to have to land something in Europe somewhere. Portugal, with the new tweak system, Portugal was able to move into Leon Castile before France could get forces there, and took it, and so France has likewise responded by counterattacking the Portuguese forces in Leon Castile, and they've almost got Portugal pushed out, and so in order to keep it rolling, England's going to have to send Portugal help, boots on the ground again. America, after taking Florida from Spain, moved its army back up north to get it in position for the eventual clash with the British. And that was the turn for 1809. Hopefully, I try to make it as clear as possible, what happened and why I did the rewind and did the tweaks. So hopefully it wasn't confusing. Hopefully everybody understands why I did it. Like I said, this scenario hasn't been play tested before. This is the very first run through, so changes and tweaks are to be expected. So with that, we'll cut it off, and we'll come back with the second half of the 1809 turn. Hello everybody, this is Nato at the Nest with the second half of the 1809 turn in the Napoleonic Wars. So, starting this off, with how the turn ended, England now has a very important choice it has to make. It's got two allies that desperately need help. The last French attacks severely reduced Prussian forces in Prussian territory, and Portugal, while a little better off, has been reduced fairly substantially too, and while Portugal can hold for now, it's only a matter of time before French numbers overwhelm them. So England has a very important decision it has to make. It only has enough transports right now to help one at a time. It doesn't have enough transports to land enough troops to help both at the same time. So England has to make a very important decision on which ally to help first. Does it help Portugal, or does it help Prussia first? So, going into the next turn, that's what England's going to have to come to a decision about come next turn, and go with that decision on help Prussia or help Portugal. So at the moment, it looks like Prussia probably needs the help more than Portugal, as the Portuguese forces are, only slightly lower than what it started with, and the number of French forces facing them is significantly smaller than the number of French units going after Prussia. And Prussia, the size of the Prussian military has been substantially reduced, so gut feeling is that England is going to help Prussia first, but we'll have to think and debate on that more in between the videos. But what England did do this turn is a British frigate attacked a French frigate off of Italy, and they managed to destroy each other. So, I guess you could call it a draw. I'm not sure if mutual destruction is a draw, but there you have it. That was the only combat action England had this turn. Moved some frigates down to keep the pressure on the French, and bought a third transport so it can land 6 units at a time. Like I said, now the question is where to land them. Spain just continued building its factory, moved it down the production line, so next turn they'll be able to put that factory out, and then turn after that start producing units. Russia just continue moving everything north, probably considering about garrisoning the coastal territories in the event that Sweden decides to go the route of building a transport and trying to land forces somewhere in Russia. Prussia, it reinforced Munich. Prussia can really only Prussia's got 2 fronts, Western Germany and Munich, and it really can only reinforce one at a time, so it decided to reinforce Munich because that is where the majority of the French forces are. And that's all Prussia did. Sweden didn't buy anything, just saved up its money. France made 3 attacks. It attacked Western Germany, reduced Prussia down to an infantry and a cannon, and attacked Munich, and with likewise results, reduced it down to an infantry and a cannon, and attacked, and so, big victories both those places, and attacked Portugal in the Leon-Castile area, and that was really only France's real defeat. In terms of casualties, it was even. Took out 1 Portugal unit for the loss of 1 of their own. But then, Portugal was able to reinforce with 2 militia, so in reality the battle did absolutely nothing to Portugal. And in actuality, Portugal is now a little bit stronger than when it went into the fight, so the battle in Spain was France's only real defeat. France has completed its research into cannon, French cannon, so France now has the first strike ability with its cannon. So that's going to give France a pretty useful advantage, being able to knock out opposing units before they can fire back. And France decided to send forces coming out of Paris, decided to send them south to throw more weight into taking out the Portuguese, and also to guard against a potential British landing in Spain, considering that's where all of England's or most of England's victory points are in. Portugal, like I said, just bought 2 militia and put them in Leon Castile to continue tying up French forces, keeping them away from Prussia. America, just continue moving north. They're now in Washington. And that was the turn for 1809 and the year. Prussia now critical, desperately needing help. Oh, England did lend-lease to Prussia as well. But Prussia and desperate need for help, screaming for England for troops on the ground, and maybe open up a third front or just reinforce Western Germany or something. Portugal, for the moment, holding strong, but eventually England is going to have to intervene there, because eventually French numbers are going to overwhelm it, and regardless of how Portugal is doing, England needs to be in Spain, because that's where its victory points are. France completing its technology. And that's about it. Next turn will be a new year, 1810. And we'll see if England can save its faction from defeat, because that's the way it's looking right now. France is looking like it's on the road to victory. We still got 5 years left of the war, so it's not over yet. England still has some time to swing it to their favor, so we'll see what they can pull off in the years to come. So we'll see you next video with a new year, and hopefully changing fortunes.
Hey, thanks for watching Axis and Allies players. Don't forget to hit a squat on that like button. If you'd like to see more videos just like this, go ahead and click on our subscribe button. You can view all of our other videos on our playlists right here on Viper and NATO, straight from the nest, coming at you from Historical Board Games, Z-Man Games, Parker Brothers, Hasbro, and Wizards of the Coast. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next round.